Beckers is right there amongst the great UConn players. I don't know if it's become this inflammatory issue that's charged by racial narratives and political narratives and all these other things that probably shouldn't be, and I don't want it to be part of the analysis of basketball. But it seems like to me even though there's really good numbers and really good viewership right now amongst this NCAA women's tournament, there's not as much conversation going on about it. The Final Four is chalk besides UConn. It's 3 number 1 seeds and then UConn, who beat the defending champs, are certainly very good as well. It just seems like there's less conversation about this, even if there's as much viewership. So, Andrew, what do you think? Because Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and some of these other sort of lightning rod type of figures are not a part of this year's field.
I think foul, man. If that's why you're watching the games, then you're missing out on a ton of that UConn team. But, I mean, there are so many great stories in women's basketball this year. Is
this good, actually, that they're this – because last year this was like the thing that every sports talk radio show was leading with. I think that's it's a disservice to the medium. It's actually really unfortunate that has become the primary and dominant form of this medium. But do you think this is actually progress, that there's not as much sort of inflammatory hot takes around this, and it's more just like, hey, let's just watch some basketball and animal.
This is a better year to be watching and consuming. You know, Caitlin Clark is just sort of a one sensation, one-of-one player in a lot of ways. It doesn't mean that she's, the greatest of all time, but a one-of-one whole experience in a lot of ways. So
fair or foul, Paige Beckers is better than Caitlin Clark.
Foul. They're different. They're different players.
They are different. I prefer too. Right? I mean, Caitlin Clark's the closest thing that women's basketball's ever seen to Steph Curry. It's the closest thing that anybody's ever seen to Steph Curry, men or women. That's exactly right.
Her and Dame Lillard, I guess.
Yeah, right. That's exactly right. And so I do the player to me. I get
on the situation. Here's what I would say, Coulter. You can only appreciate the both of them by acknowledging their differences, because you got to actually analyze them to watch their differences instead of just being like Beckers in the same bucket as Caitlin Clark, are saying from the Midwest, right, who went to Clark because of those similarities. And it's not true, man. Mental coach tape point guard, right? I mean, she's just
definitely
she's what you see in the instructional videos, man. Caitlin Clark, although she's a great player, is not that. Caitlin Clark, like I said, it's why. I don't think they would have recruits on the team. And same deal, man. Paige Beckers, I don't think would have been a top 10 recruit on the team and had to do the whole thing herself.
Andrew Houghton chiming in here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. I'm looking forward to the Final Four. These games have been good. It really is too bad that Juju Watkins, but instead sort of business as usual for UConn. Okay, fair or foul. Coming back to a little bit more of a local angle. The Grizz men's better reload in their arsenal because he's a junior college guy, so he gets one more year. It seems like it's up in the air again now. There might be a waiver issue. And then he can just kind of fill in the blanks around those guys, but those are 3 pretty reputable players. So fair or foul, the Grizz men's basketball team will likely be or will be the preseason favorites in the Big Sky Conference next year.
Yeah, they will be. I think in this day and age of the transfer portal and player movement and not knowing 3/4 of the players on the roster when we come into a new season, it's nice for the sports analysts, the people who have preseason votes in the media poll at least. Montana in to win the Big Sky again next year. That's the hard part of it. But you talk about what they're bringing back next year. The Joe Pridgeon thing, whether he gets the waiver or not, is going to be a big swing for them, whether he does or not. But you see enough with Money Williams, Tajon Sawyer announcing today that he's coming back. You see enough that I think that, everybody who gets those polls mailed out to them is going to take a big sigh of relief and say, okay, I know who I can put in at the top. Although, big news from elsewhere around the conference coming back today, looking at Idaho State and Portland State as well.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, Dylan Darling, the MVP of the league from Idaho State, is coming back. And Jalen Henderson, who I thought could have been an all-league – he was an honorable mention all-league guy, but I thought he could have been an all-league guy for Portland State. I mean, he was certainly their best offensive player. Trayvon Minot sort of took the the all-conference spot because he was the defensive player of the year in the league from Portland State. But Jalen Henderson coming back, that's a good addition there for Portland State as well. You also got to mention the addition of the Betts kid from Minnesota who signed yesterday. And who knows what this kid becomes. Caden Betts is his name. He's a 6'8", 230-pound power forward type. I'm judging him more on his high school production than probably his college production. He played in 30 games over the last 2 years at Minnesota. He was a reclassification guy, so he went to Minnesota early. He got reclassified out of his high school class, and then he redshirted. And then the last 2 years only played about 5.5 minutes per game. But at Pueblo Central High School in Pueblo, Colorado, he averaged like 23 points, 12.5 rebounds, and 3.6 blocks per game. If the Grizz are getting a first-team All-State 5A player out of Colorado who's putting up those sorts of numbers, you're like, yeah, that probably is pretty good. And then you say he got to practice in the Big Ten for 3 years. That's probably pretty good for him too. So I think that's the other part where you have optimism. You got, if Pridgeon does come back and you got Sawyer, Pridgeon, and Betts around Money Williams, and he can run some high pick and rolls and stuff like that, it sounds like a pretty fun team to watch.
Yeah, I mean, two points here, right? Like, talking about a kid dropping down from the Power 4 now, he checks all the boxes that you can have for a kid dropping down from the Power 4 to come play in the Big Sky, right? You're not going to get anybody dropping down who checks the production box because they just wouldn't be dropping down if they're producing in the Power 4. So you're never going to have that. But when you got to look at the other stuff, frame, the athleticism, the high school tape, the prestige coming out of high school, none of that is as good for projecting these guys out as production. But like I said, you're never going to have that. So just looking at the things that we can look at, looks like a pretty good get for the Grizz. And I think that has the possibility of a trend continuing in the offseason for this team. Sort of like we said with Montana football a year ago, coming off a national championship appearance, suddenly coming off an NCAA tournament run, coming off a conference championship, you look a lot more promising. You look a lot more enticing for these kids who are in the portal dropping down looking to play somewhere. I think that this is an offseason that's loaded up with a lot of opportunity for Travis DeCuire and that staff, who are, of course, no stranger to getting great transfers. I think, like we said with Montana football a year ago, they've now got the selling pitch to a lot of those kids.
No doubt.
So I don't think Betts will be the last addition.
I also think that there's another factor here with the Grizz basketball team, and I'm not trying to put words in anybody's mouth or predict anybody's future, but I do think that while Travis DeCuire has had an unbelievable amount of dedication to his alma mater, and he's had an unbelievable amount of success, winning 4 Big Sky Conference championships in the regular season, go to the NCAA tournament 3 times, the all-time leading wins guy in the history of any head coach that's come through this school. I also think that the last step for him in his coaching career is to leave Montana. And this last coaching cycle, there were some jobs that came open that were closed pretty dang quick. And that's sort of the way that it works right now because of the portal. Like when a job opens, the athletic director has to have a name that's ready to go. I think you saw that with guys like Eric Henderson from South Dakota State getting hired at Drake immediately when Ben McCollum was hired by Iowa. When you saw Nico Medved get hired by Minnesota at Colorado State, and they just promoted internally almost instantly. New Mexico with Richard Pitino going to Xavier. You saw a hire like within the span of 48 hours or less. That's all to say that I thought DeCuire's name, like if this was a normal coaching search that took a couple weeks where there's actually some information out there with who might be a name on the list, I thought Coach DeCuire's name would be at least on those lists, right? They would at least be in the mix at both New Mexico and Colorado State, and maybe even Drake, but certainly New Mexico and Colorado State. And I think that the thing is to be a hot enough commodity to be on the list where you're going to get the call instantly and get the job offer. Another NCAA tournament appearance would then just make it so affirming for him. Like then all of a sudden his resume is undeniable. He's got back-to-back years, took a little bit of a hiatus, but they got his team back-to-back years again. I think that's the last step for him, probably. And so I guess I'm saying all this to imply that I think Montana's head coach will be very, very hungry to try to run it back and get back to the big dance next year as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think even aside from career considerations, what do we talk about almost daily, it seems like, on this show? You got to take advantage of the opportunities in this new college sports landscape when you get them. And Travis DeCuire's got a great opportunity coming up this next season, regardless of whether or not he wants to parlay that into a move to the next level. You don't deny that those considerations are probably certainly thinking about him, right? But even aside from that, when you get this chance, you got to take it. When you collect this talent and you're able to keep some of this talent around for a year or two, that's the best chance you're going to have, because you don't know where you're going to be in 2027, now 2 years from now looking out. You didn't know where he was going to be in 2025 coming in with this team. So every time you get that chance, you just got to sort of take it and do the best that you can with it.
It's now ESPN Radio. We got a whole bunch more fair fouls, but we're up against it. We'll take a break. We'll come back. One of the top quarterback recruits that this state has seen in several years. Our guest, Jackson Presley, Kalispell Glacier. He was committed to Boise State. Now he's committed to Montana State. Why? He'll tell us on the other side. Don't change that dial. Keep it right here. 102.9 ESPN Radio. State University of Montana football is a way of life. Lithia Ford has long been a proud sponsor of Grizz football, and Lithia Ford of Missoula is thrilled to have several of the best Montana football seniors driving the best trucks in Montana. Aspen Sound is the premier car audio and accessory shop in Montana. Aspen Sound makes sure the boys are riding in style with tinted windows and state-of-the-art stereo systems. There's always a party in Montana. Whether you're going to a concert, a wedding, or a football game, the Montana Party Bus will get you there. Skyline Sports and ESPN MT cover the Big Sky with more depth than anyone. Check out SkylineSportsMT.com and tune in to Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula every day. My Montana Roots and Wear Your Roots clothing is your go-to spot for the most unique and comfortable lifestyle clothing you'll find anywhere. And get your custom t-shirts to support your favorite player. From 5 local businesses who love Montana, best of luck to the Grizz as they pursue another Big Sky Conference championship.
What are you drinking?
I think I'll have a 56.
56 Counties American Light Lager, a beer for Montanans and friends of Montanans.
Access to Montana's great backyard is the best part of being a Grizzly. At the University of Montana, our classrooms are the mountain peaks, river valleys, and never-ending plains of the Big Sky country. We provide students with the hands-on training to protect and enjoy hunting, conservation, and stewardship. UM launches the careers of outdoor leaders so that they can protect our traditions and ensure they are passed down for future generations. Because what's made in Montana is remaking the world.
What is a jewelry design center?
JDC is a family-owned business with deep roots in Montana. Why Montana? Because this community made us. Made us family, made us artisans, made us believe in love, made us hometown heroes. Because this community made us shine. Why Montana? Because Montana is home.
At the Stone of Accord, our liquor store has an extensive selection of Irish whiskeys, wine, and local spirits. We also have exciting events daily, and our complimentary beverages are always served with a smile. The Stone of Accord, Irish fare with Montana flair, restaurant, liquor store, and casino. Bring the whole family to the Stone of Accord for a wonderful brunch. From traditional comfort food to eclectic specials, there's something for everyone to enjoy. And it wouldn't be a proper Missoula brunch without an Irish coffee and a mimosa. The Stone of Accord, Irish fare with Montana flair, restaurant, liquor store, and casino.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
The transfer portal provided for the Grizz men's basketball team earlier this week. Hello, I am Colter Nuanez. A week after sharpshooting guard Malik Moore left Montana to enter the portal, Grizz men's hoops signed a former 4-star recruit in Caden Betts, a transfer from the University of Minnesota of the Big Ten. The 6'8" forward played in 30 games off the bench at Minnesota and has yet to start his first collegiate game. While averaging just 5.5 minutes per game for his career with the Gophers, he did receive Minnesota's Sportsmanship Award from the Big Ten this past season. Betts spent 3 seasons seasons all told with the Golden Gophers, including a redshirt year, and scored a total of 50 points over the last 2 seasons. Betts was a starter for all 3 of his high school seasons, eclipsing 1,000 career points at Pueblo Central High School in Pueblo, Colorado. As a junior, he was a first-team All-State selection who led Colorado Class 4A in blocks per game at 2.5 and double-doubles with 20, while averaging 23 points and 12.5 rebounds a game. In other Grizz roster news, sophomore guard Money Williams announced he will return for his junior year. Williams was named the Big Sky's top reserve and a second-team All-Conference honoree this past season. His move from the starting lineup to the bench helped the Grizz offense flourish as Montana went 13-2 after the move to share the Big Sky regular season title, win the Big Sky tournament crown, and make the NCAA tournament for the 3rd time under Travis DeCuire.
It's Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula. Watch the show statewide on SWX Montana Television. Maybe I can fool myself. I'll get over you. I know I will. I'll pretend my ship's not sinking. And I'll tell myself I'm over you. 'Cause I'm the king I wish for.
This reminds me of like every late 80s or early 90s movie. It's so funny how what movies used to be. I get it. Some of the script writers have gone over to, most of them are writing Netflix shows now, and everybody wants this 60 or 70 hour like binge-worthy drama show. For those of you that aren't old enough to remember, you used to be able to just go to movies that were just like fun, lighthearted, funny. So often now to get some comedy action, it's like it's just all streamed or it's just all stand up or whatever. There's just not just the normal, like a movie like Pretty Woman. That movie would probably not be that big of a hit in the theaters right now. And it was one of the biggest hits in the history of the theaters back when it came out. I think that song is actually from Pretty Woman. That's what that reminds me of, is just sort of the wholesome nature of how movies used to be. It's Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, and the ESPN MT app. And guess what? We're on YouTube. Tommy also tells me we're on Twitch. I get YouTube. I don't know what the heck Twitch is, but we're on it here on Nuanez Now. We've been on the YouTube, and then we weren't on the YouTube, and now we are back on the YouTube. So go check us out. Just go to the... If you just search on YouTube, ESPN Missoula or Nuanez Now, either one will get you there. And you can just stream this show live every single day between 4 and 6 p.m. So if you're into that kind of stuff, that's awesome. Subscribe, and you'll get the alert when it's coming on. Ryan and Tutel and I used to stream on YouTube quite often, and we had a pretty good viewership there. And I just can't even really remember what happened. We moved studios, and I don't know. You don't need to know the story of why not, because the only thing that matters is here we are. We're back on YouTube. So go check us out on YouTube, ESPN Missoula or Nuanez Now. And please click subscribe and tune in. The news of the weekend was actually a little bit of a bombshell, which is a rather rare occasion when it comes to recruiting news in the high school football world in Montana. But Jackson Presley is not just your average high school football recruit. First of all, he's got a completely different type of story. He moved to Montana when he was a freshman in high school, and he was going into his sophomore year of high school, and he was one of the highest-rated freshman quarterbacks in the country. He held offers from schools like West Virginia and Texas A&M and Florida State, Oregon. His recruiting has kept up. Some of those schools have cooled in interest. Others have picked up, especially schools out west like Colorado and Boise State where he was committed. But then he abruptly flipped over the weekend, and he's decided on Sunday that he is going to Montana State. I caught up with him last night for the Wise. Time for our Prep Extra, featuring some high school football talk, but it's actually recruiting news that brings us into our Prep Extra this week. And we're joined now by a senior-to-be. He's currently in the midst of his junior year and doing some track up there at Kalispell Glacier, but most well-known around the state of Montana as one of the best quarterbacks in the Treasure State. Jackson Presley from Kalispell Glacier, our guest. And I think most of you probably out there heard the news, but if you haven't, he was committed to Boise State and now is committed to Montana State. So, Jackson, we appreciate you taking some time, man. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well. Thanks so much for asking. So, first of all, just take us through this decision. You announced it on social media on Sunday that you were going to stay in state, and I think you said stay home, the state that's given you so much you want to play here in the state of Montana. So take people through it. Take people through what you like about Montana State and just the timing of this decision and all that went into it.
Absolutely. Yeah. First and foremost, thank you, Jesus, for giving me this opportunity. And so I was committed to Boise State and, wrestled with the decision and, God really put it on my heart that, about staying in Montana. And so I prayed about it, gave it to the Lord, and, ultimately he was guiding me to Montana. And so then I really started to, bunker down and really choose between the two schools. And I was able to make two trips, a trip to each one of them, and ultimately chose the Bobcats down in Bozeman. But, I really love the culture that Montana State has to offer, and the coach's connection with each and every player, and just Bozeman itself. It's a great place, and I can't wait to thrive down there.
Well, I know Coach Bennett, Grady Bennett, head coach there at Glacier, has told us a little bit about your story, but I'll let you tell your own story. So tell people about just your journey to come to Montana, because you actually moved here before your sophomore year. So just take people through sort of the steps that led you then to be playing up there for Coach Bennett at Glacier.
Absolutely, yeah. So I grew up in Santa Clarita, California, for about 16 years of my life, and it was a great chapter of my life. And I had a great childhood down there, and just a great chapter of my life. And then we made the move to come up to Kalispell, Montana, due to my dad's work. His name is Brian Presley. He's in the film industry, and he was able to work, but also be home at the same time and be with his family. And we've been coming up here for about a couple of years now since I was little, and so it's been a great fit. But I instantly got plugged in with Glacier and met Coach B for the first time. And he's an absolutely amazing coach. He's helped me so much, not only grow as a football player, but really as a young man and a man of Christ. And he's someone that is a mentor to me as long as a coach, and I'm super grateful to have him in my life. And so once I came up here, every player at Glacier took me under their wing and really became one of their own. And I'm super incredibly grateful for each and every person that has crossed my path here in Montana. Like I said in my Twitter post, Montana gave me so much and has changed my life in so many ways. It's where I've been able to build a strong foundation with the Lord, and really just have the opportunity to grow with people and become a better young man of Christ. And it's been an absolutely amazing blessing that I'm just super thankful for. And I give all my credit to the Lord and everyone that's helped me throughout my journey.
Jackson Presley, Kalispell Glacier quarterback, joining us here on Nuanez Now. So you mentioned that you went on visits recently here to both the in-state schools. So tell us more about Montana State. What stood out? Bozeman's obviously a great town. It's booming. The campus has grown immensely over these last 8 to 10 years. And obviously the football program's dang good too, having won 2 out of the last 3 Big Sky Conference championships. So just take us down the list of all the things that you liked, both athletically and academically, about Montana State.
Absolutely, yes. Academically, they're a great school. I'm able to accomplish lots of things there academically. And, when it comes to sports, Montana State is a great place to be. And they're able to air the ball out with also utilizing the legs of a quarterback when needed. And I feel like that fits all of my strengths when it comes to the position. And the coaches there are absolutely amazing. And they have a genuine connection with each and every one of their players. And they're willing to do everything to win and to compete. And as you can see, they've had so much success over the years and are competing almost every year. And I went all in on that. And again, being in Montana is absolutely special because it's where I've been able to accomplish and receive many things in my life. not just athletically, but spiritually and mentally. And it's a place that has helped me grow significantly. And so I am truly honored and blessed to be able to stay in the state of Montana. And I can't wait to play in that Bobcat Stadium on Saturdays.
Brent Vigen, obviously a great track record when it comes to recruiting and developing quarterbacks. Most famously, obviously, Josh Allen was one of the best quarterbacks in the whole world. Played for Coach Vigen there at Wyoming when Vigen was the offensive coordinator. But then most recently, Tommy Mellott, of course, who's another Montana guy who made good and won National Player of the Year last year for the Bobcats. So that acumen, how much did that influence your decision playing for a guy like that?
Absolutely, yeah. Coach Vigen is an amazing coach, and as you can see, he's coached some amazing quarterbacks over the years and just has had so much success in his coaching career. And as a player, that's super appealing, and, you know, you want to be all in on that. And, you know, especially the type of coach he is, he's a very genuine coach and loves each and every one of his players. And it's just a great coach, and so I can't wait to play under him when I get to Montana State.
Also, a new offensive coordinator in Pete Sturbeck, and I've talked to Coach Sturbeck a couple of times, impressed with his ideas. You can tell he's a very smart football mind. So what sort of conversations, if any, did you get to have with him?
Absolutely, yeah. Coach Sturbeck is a great coach, and he's also had a great record of coaching. And I'm really excited to see him with Montana State and the work he's going to continue to do. He's a great coach and has a genuine love for each and every one of his quarterbacks and the whole team at Montana State. And is just a great coach and knows the game very well and knows what it takes to win. And, you know, as a competitor and an athlete, you know, I want a part of that. And so I can't wait to help contribute success to the Bobcats.
Jackson Presley joining us here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, statewide television on SWX Montana TV, and the ESPN MT app. He's a Kalispell Glacier junior, recently flipped his commitment from Boise State to Montana State. When it comes to the Glacier football program, Coach Bennett has such a track record of developing great college players, and I know Coach Haynes, who I think is not on the staff anymore, but it was an awesome player himself, and the guy who's coached high-level college football too. And it just seems like there's a lot of resources there at Glacier to help you guys sort of know the path to the Division I ranks. So how much has that impacted you, and how would you just describe the way that the coaching staff in general has helped you along this journey so far?
Absolutely, yes. Coach B and the rest of his staff have been able to help me in every aspect of my life when it comes to on the field and off the field. You know, on the field with Coach Haynes and Coach Bennett, I've been able to learn everything there is about the position of quarterback. You know, both of them playing quarterback in college. You know, with Coach Haynes being able to back up Marcus Mariota, and then, of course, Coach Bennett playing at the Grizz. But they've been able to help me so much when it comes to my IQ and my decision-making and really everything that comes with the position. And I've been so blessed to be able to play for them and to have them teach me everything there is about playing quarterback. And really, I mean, this team is special that we have at Glacier High School. It's a genuine brotherhood, and everyone loves each other and is willing to go out there and give it their all for each other. And I've been able to grow so much as a football player, of course, through the weather conditions of playing in the snow and all kinds of different weather conditions, but also being able to grow as a human and a teammate and a friend with each and every one of these guys. And each and every one of these guys have impacted my life so much. And, you know, I wouldn't be able to be at this point in my life with my success and everything if it wasn't for them. They're the ones that make me look good, and I'm just blessed to be able to be a part of them and share the field with them.
You're doing track, so tell us about that. What events are you doing this spring?
Yeah, no, so I've been I do track, and I do the 100 and the 200, and use track to increase my speed, of course, for football, and continue to build a brotherhood with the teammates from football and just the people around the school. And it's been an absolute joy to be able to find ways throughout the school of Glacier to, you know, be a light and just try to impact as many kids as I can and give glory to the Lord while doing it. And so, you know, Glacier, Kalispell, and Montana itself has changed my life forever, and just super incredibly grateful to be here.
Well, back-to-back state championship game appearances. But you guys are still looking for that first state title since 2014 there at Glacier. So when does the mindset switch? It sounds like track is motivated by football, obviously. So you guys are probably thinking about it, talking about it right here in the here and now. But what are the goals for this upcoming offseason to sort of get ready for your senior year and chase down that state championship?
Absolutely, yes. We've been having the tough loss twice in the back of our minds, and we're ready to get after it this year and bring it back home to Kalispell. But, yeah, each and every one of us have individual goals of becoming stronger, faster, and more equipped for this next season. And I think last season was able to help us really well, especially for me, being a junior quarterback with more experience, being able to learn how to handle situational football and tough games like we played last year. And, we had a young team going in last year, and, as you could tell, that we were able to hold our ground and do very well. And so we have a lot of guys coming back for this next year and for my senior year. And I think we're going to be able to make some noise up here in Kalispell. And so I'm super pumped to just have one more year with these guys. These are guys that have ultimately changed my life forever. And I'm super excited to share the field with them one more time.
Last thing for you then, just knowing what the future holds. I know you've been getting recruited a lot longer than most other guys in the recruiting game, especially from the state of Montana. So going through this for years and years now and having all these offers and stuff, but now having a solidified decision, what was that moment like for you to sort of get it out of the way and know what your future does hold? And how much do you think that helps just give you clarity going into your senior year?
Absolutely, yeah. It was such a special moment to commit to Montana State, knowing that I get to play for the community that has given me so much and for the state that has ultimately changed my life forever. And so it was an amazing feeling and super special and gave me clarity, of course, because now I get to put that aside for senior season and then get ready to go and rock the navy and green one last time with Glacier. And I can't wait to get on that field in August and work throughout the summer and the spring and get rolling when the season starts.
Jackson Presley, Kalispell Glacier, committed to Montana State over the weekend, and he's in the midst of his junior year of track, heading into his senior year this upcoming fall. Jackson, great catching up, man, and we'll be in touch, certainly during football season, but best of luck with track this year, and thanks so much for taking some time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on, and God bless.
Well, insight into one of the big bombshells of the weekend and of the year, honestly, so far. Jackson Presley flipping from Boise State to Montana State. A little bit of a more spring sports-like Treasure State Stars on the other side. Don't change that dial. Keep it right here. It's Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio.
So will you marry me in your future? Or maybe you do it all over again. Hi, I'm Brian Toon with Jewelry Design Center, inviting you to come see the largest selection of Will You Marry Me in the state of Montana. The brightest diamonds of every shape and size, unique settings built to last, and skilled jewelers on site offering free sizing and maintenance for life, because that's how long we want to be your jeweler. Jewelry Design Center in Missoula, on Brooks, across from the Montana Club.
When you buy tires at Les Schwab, you're getting more than just tires. You're getting America's best tire warranty, 60-day satisfaction guarantee, no hassle road hazard protection, and free maintenance for the life of your tires. So if something happens to your tire on the road, we'll fix it, or we'll replace it, no questions asked. Other places make you pay extra for that kind of protection, but at Les Schwab, it's included with every set of tires, because more warranty means less worry, and nobody stands by their tires like Les Schwab. Get more from Les.
This is Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Radio Missoula.
Why don't you call my name? Oh, let me be a sledgehammer. This will be my testimony.
Back. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, the ESPN MT app, and YouTube. Appreciate you for hanging out. Cool through Nuanez coming to you through the ESPN MT studio. Might I say the revamped ESPN MT studio. Thanks to the boys behind the glass. Actually, mostly thanks to Chicken Doesn't Know Sports for ordering us around. She is our interior designer. She said, we're fixing this. We're making it look better. We're doing it right now. We're like, okay, sounds good. So we were the grunt work. She was the actual designer, but certainly looks better in here, no doubt. Time for our Treasure State Stars, probably presented by Parkside Credit Union. Parkside Credit Union, a great place in western Montana to get a loan because Parkside Credit Union loves to say yes. A collection of wrestlers from the state of Montana competed in the NHSA High School Wrestling Nationals this past weekend. Rather than give you the whole acronym, let's just say High School Nationals Wrestling this last weekend. Zach Morse, who is the most recent addition to the four-time State AA Wrestling Champion Club, he's of Billings West. He placed fifth at 120 pounds, so holding the zone with some of the best in the country. In the senior division, Cale Bauman of Great Falls was eighth at 160 pounds. In the sophomore division, Cale Florchinger of Great Falls was fifth at the 120-pound weight class, and Chris Grossman of Billings Skyview was sixth at the 126-pound weight class. So congratulations to all of those high school wrestlers for competing on the national stage. Treasure State star number 2, Erin Wild. She's a Whitefish, Montana native. She's appeared on this list several times. She's working on her 5th overall Big Sky Conference championship in the high jump. She's a 3-time Big Sky champion indoors, and she's also won one outdoors, and she was named the Big Sky Conference Outdoor Track and Field Athlete of the Week on the women's side after she jumped 5 foot 10 inches at the Cat Grizz Duel, which was also the Al Manuel Invitational. They combined the two meets to get the track season started off last weekend. But a great start to the outdoor season for Erin Wild, who is already one of the most, I think you could say she's the most accomplished women's high jumper in Grizz track history. She's broken the school record 3 times. She's already got 4 Big Sky titles to her name, and she's done it with great flair. She's really fun to watch. I mean, she's just such a light and graceful athlete. I mean, the way she bounds over the bar, it just looks unbelievably effortless. And she's also just a really funny gal. She's been on this show twice, and we really enjoyed having her on. You know, she was so nervous that she wasn't going to be good, and then she was just great. She was just hilarious and so infectious personality. So we'll look forward to having Erin Wild on the show again here sooner rather than later. Treasure State Star number 3, a collection of coaches from around the state of Montana. The Montana Coaches Association inducts a Hall of Fame class every single year, and it's always sort of a who's who of great coaches from around the state of Montana. The class this year includes Ricknold Thompson of Helena Capital, Wayne Badeau of Missoula Hellgate, Brian Kavanaugh of Cutbank, Carly Finberg of Columbia Falls, and Rob Lott of Twin Britches. Ricknold Thompson of Helena Capital began his coaching career in 1992. He spent 23 years as the girls' soccer coach, along with 5 years as an assistant, as head girls' soccer coach, and then 5 years as an assistant. He also was an assistant for the track and field program there at Helena for 34 years. As the head coach of the girls' soccer team, Thompson helped Capital earn 12 state trophies, winning 8 state championships along the way with 2 runner-up finishes and 2 third-place finishes. He was also on the track and field staff for 4 different Helena Capital state championships. Wayne Badeau, a 30-year member of the Montana Coaches Association. He got his coaching career started in Webo, where he's the head football, boys track and field, and boys basketball coach. That's a full slate for you. He also spent 1 year at Miles City before moving to Hellgate, where he coached for 35 years. He coached football and boys basketball as an assistant and was also the head coach of the girls basketball team for quite some time. He helped, this was back in the day when the boys and girls basketball was different seasons, so he would head coach for the girls and then assistant with the boys. He helped Hellgate's girls to the 1994 state championship and also runner-up finishes in 1992, 1995, and 2003. Brian Kavanaugh from Cutbank spent 24 years coaching basketball. 21 of those years was as the head coach. He won 386 total games. He's been a part of the Montana Coaches Association for 37 years. His teams have had a tremendous amount of success. 4 state championships and 3 runner-up finishes in boys basketball. He's been nominated for the MCA Coach of the Year 8 times and has won the award 4 times. He's also been nominated 4 times for the National High School Coach of the Year award. So quite an accomplished coach there for Brian Kavanaugh at Cutbank. Carly Finberg also had a ton of success during her time at Columbia Falls. She was the head coach at Columbia Falls from 1993 to 2024. She coached 19 years worth of boys basketball and 13 years worth of girls basketball. 533 wins between the two sports. An astonishing 17 top 3 finishes at state. That's crazy. 6 state titles, 5 of them in boys basketball and 1 of them in girls basketball, to go along with 4 runner-up finishes, 3 in boys and 1 in girls, and 7 more third-place trophies. That is a lot of hardware that Coach Finberg helped put there in Columbia Falls. She's been a 17-time nominee for Montana Coach of the Year, and her resume just goes on and on and on and on. And then Rob Lott was an awesome coach at Twin Bridges. He spent 38 years there in Madison County, between a couple years in Ennis, a couple years in Sheridan, and then 1993 through 2021 at Twin Bridges. He was the head football coach for 22 years, won 125 games. He was also the girls basketball coach for 20 years and won 384 games. And he was the boys basketball coach there for 14 years and won 143 games. He was also the head track coach for 11 years. So he did it all there in Twin Bridges. An unbelievable amount of success as well. 4 state trophies with championships in track in 1984, 1985, and 1986. He's also had some runs in football and girls basketball. He was Peyton Ferris's coach there in girls hoops when they made that great run to third place back in 2012. And Coach Rob Lott's had a ton of success there at Twin Bridges. Our Treasure State Star is probably presented by Parkside Credit Union, a great place in western Montana to get a loan because Parkside Credit Union loves to say yes. We also have to mention the All-Americans from the Frontier Hoops. 3 of them, 2 on the women's side, 1 on the men's side. Kendall Keller, who's a former Lady Grizz, who then went on to be the Frontier Conference Player of the Year, a Havre Blue Pony great. She was an All-American nominee from Carroll College. Sydney Deathman from Rocky Mountain College, and then Hayden Dykins of Montana Tech. They all were NAIA All-Americans here named on Monday. So congratulations to those fine athletes as well. Treasure State Stars, probably presented by Parkside Credit Union. a great place in western Montana to get a loan because Parkside Credit Union loves to say yes. We'll talk Grizz and Bobcat spring ball on the other side. Don't change that dial. Keep it right here. It's Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio.
For 20 years, there's been a sound that's helped define Missoula. A sound as unique as the people who call this place home. The Trail 103.3. We're grateful. We're honored. We remain true to the community and true to the music. Tune in for the celebration. Tune in for the party. Tune in for the next 20 years. We can hardly wait.
I can't wait.
The Trail 103.3.
In the Treasure State, University of Montana football is a way of life. Lithia Ford has long been a proud sponsor of Grizz football, and Lithia Ford of Missoula is thrilled to have several of the best Montana football seniors driving the best trucks in Montana. Aspen Sound is the premier car audio and accessory shop in Montana. Aspen Sound makes sure the boys are riding in style with tinted windows and state-of-the-art stereo systems. There's always a party in Montana. Whether you're going to a concert, a wedding, or a football game, the Montana Party Bus will get you there. Skyline Sports and ESPN MT cover the Big Sky with more depth than anyone. Check out SkylineSportsMT.com and tune in to Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula every day. My Montana Roots and Wear Your Roots clothing is your go-to spot for the most unique and comfortable lifestyle clothing you'll find anywhere. And get your custom t-shirts to support your favorite player. From 5 local businesses who love Montana, best of luck to the Grizz as they pursue another Big Sky Conference championship.
All Mattresses on sale going on right now. Locally owned and nationally known mattresser carries all the major brands like the proven Deeper Sleep with Purple, Tempur-Pedic, Beauty Rest, Sealy, Nectar, Stearns & Foster, Serta, and more. Save big with savings like the Serta Perfect Sleep Excellence with 10-year warranty, only $5.99. Get the sleep you've always wanted for as little as $39 a month. Mattress Firm's All Mattresses on sale going on right now.
Mattress Firm, where it's easy to get a great night's sleep.
36.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
The transfer portal provided for the Grizz men's basketball team earlier this week. Hello, I am Colter Nuanez. A week after sharpshooting guard Malik Moore left Montana to enter the portal, Grizz men's hoops signed a former 4-star recruit in Caden Betts, a transfer from the University of Minnesota of the Big Ten. The 6'8" forward played in 30 games off the bench at Minnesota and has yet to start his first collegiate game, while averaging just 5.5 minutes per game. Half rebound the game. In other Grizz roster news, sophomore guard Money Williams announced he will return for his junior year. Williams was named the Big Sky's top reserve and a second-team all-conference honoree this past season. His move from the starting lineup to the bench helped the Grizz offense flourish as Montana went 13-2 after the move to share the Big Sky regular season title, win the Big Sky tournament crown, and make the NCAA tournament for the third time under Travis DeCure.
Nuanez Now on ESPN Radio.
Just messing with me now. I wanted to listen to a little upbeat George Michael, but instead we get a little Careless Whisper, a little Wham. Hey, I don't care who you are. You can think it's corny. You can think it's elevator music. That's got to be one of the great saxophone lines in the history of pop music. And anybody that was alive during that time when that song, I mean, that's one of the biggest hits ever. Like, for real, that album and that song, that threw those guys into the stratosphere. Those guys were riding the spaceship all the way to the moon. If you haven't watched it, watch the George Michael / Wham documentary on Netflix. It really is a great display of, first of all, just how talented George Michael is, unbelievable, but also just how bad being that famous that fast is for humans. Like, it's just not good. It's not good for your psyche. It's not good for your inner balance. But I've always been a big George Michael fan. That song is, it's a little bit elevator-y for me, but George Michael, in terms of just pure pop music talent, man, he's pretty tough to beat. He's not Michael Jackson and Prince, but it's pretty close, man. He's definitely one of the great Brit stars of the post-Beatles era, no doubt about it. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, the ESPN MT app, and YouTube now. What's up, YouTube world? Appreciate you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in. If you missed anything in the show, you can find it on the podcast, which is proudly presented by the M Store, where they're all Grizz all the time. Shop online, MontanaMStore.com. Podcast also presented by the Montana State Bookstore, your best place for blue and gold on game day or any other day. And Elevated Tax, elevating you and your business with a modern professional touch. You want to save money on your taxes this year? You want a custom tax plan just for you? Visit elevatedtax.com. We have some more tickets for you. The Browning is bringing their hard-hitting sound to the ZAC, 7 p.m. Tuesday, April 8th. That's a week from today. The Browning is an American electronic-core band formed in Kansas City, Missouri in 2005. Joining them will be The Swarm, The Defect, and Blessin' Doom, which is a powerhouse lineup of electronic-core and deathcore. It's supposed to be an epic night of metal and mayhem. They have an in-venue bar that serves beer, wine, hard seltzer, and cider. If you'd like tickets to this, shoot us a text, 406-888-1029. That's 888-1029. Text us and let us know if you want to go watch a little electronic-core metal show down there at the ZAC next Tuesday. We got a couple more pairs of tickets, so keep those texts coming in, 406-888-1029. That's 888-1029. Also, let us know what you want us to talk about. We're going to dive into a bunch of spring football the next couple weeks. Grizz spring ball concludes next Friday with their annual spring game at Washington Grizzly Stadium. And the Bobcats, their spring game is coming up April 26th. Cats started 2 weeks later than the Grizz. Grizz started and then took spring break and then kept going. Cats waited to start till last week after spring break was in the rear view. So I don't know if one way is better than the other. I don't really think it actually matters. The Grizz, it doesn't really matter anymore anyway. It's because they got an indoor practice facility. So the weather is not an obstacle. For the Cats, I think they try to wait as long as they can. Their indoor is rapidly being built, but it's not quite finished yet. Last time I was in Bozeman, it looks like quite the spectacle. It is definitely a beautiful facility, but I mean, I heard it snowed today, so in Bozeman. So spring football remains a challenge there at Montana State. So let us know, what kind of football questions do you have for both the Grizz and the Bobcats? Text us, 406-888-1029. What sort of personnel do you want us to analyze? What sort of roster questions do you have? What sort of schedule questions do you have? I think as always, it's always big years for these two teams. They are the pro teams of Montana, no question about it. And they have sky-high national championship type of expectations year in and year out, no doubt about it. I mean, I think that It's funny. I was hanging out with a new friend of mine on Friday, who is relatively new to Montana. He lived in Montana for about less than a year. Big sports fan, big football fan though. And he was asking me, he's like, "Are the Grizz going to be good this next year?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, this guy's a Power 5 guy. Yeah, he's a Notre Dame guy." So I was like, by conventional standards of college football, the Grizz are good every year. I mean, the Grizz win 9 or 10 games every year. It's just a matter of, do they win 13 games and go to Frisco, or can they get all the way over the top and win their 14th or 15th game and win that elusive national championship that has not happened at the University of Montana since 2001. It's the same thing for the Cats, right? I mean, the Cats have been right there knocking on the door. They've had double-digit wins for 3 of Brett Vigen's first 4 seasons. The down year was when they went 8-4. Like last year, the Grizz went 9-4, and that was a down year. So broadly, of course these teams are going to be good. But where do they fit into the rest of the FCS picture? That's the hugest question at this exact moment. The Grizz have been my biggest question is 2023 an outlier, or was last year just a sort of side effect, a repercussion of everything that went into building up to 2023? That's my biggest question. If 2023 is an outlier, then you could say that this Bobby Hauck 2.0 has been where the Grizz have been the best of the rest. They've been one of the best teams in the country that isn't one of those top 3 or 4 or 5 teams in the country, and they haven't quite been one of those top 3 or 4 or 5 teams in the country. If you believe that 2023 was a much better indication of where the program is at, and last year was a symptomatic step back because of all of the 5th, 6th, and 7th year guys that they had on the team in 2023, plus the endless drama that they had at quarterback with first Clifton McDowell entering the portal and then a dual quarterback system that did not seem to work. Well, it's not that it didn't seem to work. It didn't work. So that's my biggest question about this Grizz team. At Montana State now, they just went on this great 4-year run that makes Brent Vigen the most successful coach in the history of the Big Sky Conference in his first 4 years. But they did it with a very special and also a very different type of athlete at quarterback. Not only is Tommy Mellott a supreme athlete for the FCS level, he's also an unorthodox and not prototype style of quarterback. So what's the growing pains going to be like to replace him? There's turnover every single year in college football. You're always having to replace players. But how do you replace a guy like that? Because do you just have to go a different direction with your offensive scheme? I think to a certain extent you do, because I just think you just can't replicate some of the stuff that Tommy Mellott was doing. So that's the big question. And I want to know what your big questions are. We did 5 broad offseason questions about both the Cats and the Grizz a couple weeks ago, but now I want to dive into the down and dirty of the position groups. And I want to start by analyzing the offensive lines. I think that the omnipresent narrative around the Grizz offensive line is they've been good but not great basically since the last time they were great. And I would say the last time they were great was some 16 years ago in Bobby Hauck's last season of 1.0 Bobby Hauck. They've certainly been better than what they were when Coach Hauck inherited this program. So much of that being better has been their ability to identify Power 5 and FBS type of transfers to come in and solidify certain spots, namely A.J. Forbes and Chris Walker. Forbes solidified the center spot for 3 years. Walker solidified one of the tackle spots for 2 years. Now, though, you have an entirely new look offensive line, because not only do you graduate Brandon Casey, who was a 4-year starter at right tackle and an All-American the last 2 years. Journey Grimsrud decided he was going to walk away from the game. He's been a 2.5-year starter at offensive guard that could have come back for his senior year, but because I think for a lot of health reasons, decided that he's got his degree and he was going to move on. Cade Klimzak, who was a late addition that became a crucial stopgap at center, So you're talking about you replace it from your center on over. You return Liam Brown, who will be in his third year as a starter, and you return Cannon Pamphilov, who's played all over this offensive line as sort of a Swiss Army knife type of guy. But how do you fill in the rest of the spots there along the offensive front? That's a huge question. I think the broad narrative for the Bobcat offensive line, I think if you don't have a magnifying glass on the program, I think you're thinking, well, holy cow, they're going to lose an NFL draft pick type of guy in Marcus Ware. They're going to lose a total glue guy / program type of guy in Justice Perkins, who was going to be a 4-year starter who broke the school record for starts in a career. And then he got hurt during fall camp, and they didn't miss a beat. They slide Cole Sain over there. Cole Sain was a second-team All-League selection at center, but he also graduates. So also, if you're the Cats, you're talking about losing several very impactful offensive linemen. But they also have some guys, because they've had such great depth, and they've also played. And also you lose Connor Moore, of course. How can I forget? Connor Moore was the most talented offensive lineman in the Big Sky Conference. He's a unanimous first-team All-League pick. He was a first-team All-American. That's a bold statement by me to make, to say he's the most talented offensive lineman in the league when Marcus Ware on his same offensive line was in the league, and Ware is projected right now as somewhere between a 4th and 7th round draft pick. But I do think Moore, there's a reason Moore was getting offers from Ohio State and Michigan State. There's a reason that Moore is rumored to be getting more than $1 million in NIL money. He's that talented. He's an NFL guy. He's one of the most highly graded offensive linemen in the country last year. So you lose that. You lose your left tackle. You lose a guy who's played both guard spots and right tackle, and you lose both of your centers. So I think the outside looking in, if you don't have a magnifying glass on this thing for Montana State, you're thinking, oh, they're going to take a huge step back on the offensive line. They also lose their offensive line coach in Al Johnson, who goes to Temple. But then you take a closer look at it, and there's just a little bit more stability there. And I think that there's stability for two reasons. One, just the tried and true proof in the pudding, basically. Montana State, for all their various levels of success over the last 20 to 23 years, I say 23 because that's when the streak ended, the Cats were a dormant football program from when they won the national championship in 1984 until when they broke the streak to the Grizz in 2002. But since 2002, it's been an incremental build to get back to this point. But mostly since then, the Cats have had a very solid and cohesive identity on the offensive line. They've built it with workman-like guys, a lot of whom have been from Montana. They've had a lot of stability at the offensive line coaching spot until lately, and then there's been some turnover there because they've had so much success on the offensive line. So guys like Brian Armstrong is moving up to the FBS. Now Al Johnson moving up to the FBS. So that's one reason why there's just more stability there. The Grizz offensive line has been one of the biggest question marks on their team for 15 years. And it's not even just because it's not because they've been so bad. They've been fine to good. But fine to good is not good enough if you want to compete with South Dakota State and North Dakota State. That's just the point-blank truth. What's the national champion at the FCS level had in common over the last 15 years? They've had the best or one of the three best offensive lines in the country, period. North Dakota State, 9 years running. And then North Dakota State last year. South Dakota State took that title from them, best offensive line in the country, and that's why they went back-to-back. One of the main reasons why they went back-to-back. The Cats have always been one of, if not the best offensive lines in the conference. That's been tried and true, basically, certainly since Jeff Choate came to Montana State, and then followed by Brett Vegan. But Rob Ash had some really good offensive lines as well. Basically, Jason McIndoe, who was the offensive line coach there for 14 years, he did a lot of magic there. And I think that's been a key to their stability in their culture because they had the same offensive line coach through two different head coaches, through multiple different offensive coordinators. So that certainly established a standard. And then the other part is they just have a lot of guys that have played in games that are back. JT Reed was an All-Big Sky guy in 2022 2023, excuse me. And then he got hurt and missed last year. But now he's back. So, that's an all-conference type of guy that can play either of your guard spots. You also have Burke Mastel, who was the starting left guard for most of the year last year. So I think that you got another guard spot solidified. So that's 2 spots I think you don't have to worry about unless you have some injuries. They got Titan Fleischman, who's a second-team All-League guy and landed on an All-American list even last year as a sophomore, who's your right tackle. So you got that spot sewed up. That's all fine and dandy, but the 2 most important spots, especially when you run this power zone scheme that Montana State runs, it's going to be, well, I guess the tackles are I was going to say left tackle because that's the cliche number 1 spot on an offensive line in the modern age. But with the way that Montana State runs and the way that they can move the pocket, the way they can shield block, the things they can do up front, the 2 tackle spots are created equal. I actually think the right tackle, the power tackle spot, especially if you have a right-handed quarterback, which Montana State's gonna because they only have right-handed quarterbacks on the roster, I think that right tackle spot might be as important. So Fleischman's definitely a good place to start there. But you got to shore up the backside. You got to shore up the left tackle spot, no question. But to me, the biggest question mark for this Montana State team on the offensive line is who's going to play center. Reed's played some center. Remains to be seen if he can do it as a high a level as Perkins and Sane did it, because those guys did it at an incredibly high level. And then after that, a whole bunch of unproven guys. The 3 guys, though, I'm looking at on Montana State's offensive line that I think could also fit into the mix somewhere in this lineup. Dylan Rollins, who was the Montana Gatorade Player of the Year at Missoula Sentinel years ago. This is 2020. He went to BYU. Then he went on a LDS mission. And he's since then returned to Bozeman. His father, Josh, played at Montana State. His brother, Byron, also played at Montana State. So they have a family history there. But Rollins was exceptionally talented in high school. I mean, he's just a mountain of a man. I was going to call him a kid because the last time I actually saw him in person, he was like 17 years old. But he's definitely a man now. And they're listing him at 6'6", 305. I know he battled with some nagging injury stuff last year. So if he can get healthy and he can get into the flow, he's a guy that at least has a lot of talent. So we'll see what he can develop into. But certainly has some extra years on his belt too, so probably some maturity both physically and mentally there too. And a guy that people around Montana certainly know that name. Cedric Jefferson was the next man up at either of the tackle spots last year, and he seems like the next guy. 6'4", 300-pounder. I mean, Montana State's been so good at identifying these young offensive tackles that they can throw to the Wolves early. They did it with TJ Session, who then ended up transferring to Cal. They did it with Rush Reimer, who also ended up transferring to Cal. They did it with Connor Moore, who ended up transferring to Michigan State. You're seeing the trend here, right? They're getting guys that are Power 5 level talents that they're developing, and then they're shipping them off, but they're replacing them with more Power 5 level talents. Not sure if Cedric Jefferson is there yet, but I do know they love his potential. They started playing him up on the quote-unquote varsity when he was a true freshman, but were able to preserve his red shirt. So that's sort of a tip of the cap to a young guy when you get to travel, even though you're not even actually on the active roster. So I think Rollins and Jefferson certainly could fit in the mix. And then the other guy I've heard great returns on, but I don't think he's probably ready yet, is Braden Zimmer. He's a kid out of Billings West. He's 6'6", 245 pounds. So he definitely needs way more weight than that as of right now. That also could have been his fall weight, so he might have put on some weight this last offseason into this spring ball. So maybe we'll get some updated weights when the spring game rolls around. But I've heard good things. I've heard that he has high-level potential. He was a great basketball player. He moved his feet really, really well. Great athlete. But you're still probably saying, Coulter, who the heck's going to play center? That's another question, because none of those guys I just named are centers. Rollins actually might be able to play center, but, I mean, to me, I know I'm biased here because I'm a center and I'm short. I'm short by offensive line standards. But I like centers like my size, 6'1", 6'2". Like, that's what – I think that just caters to the position better. So that's my biggest question is who's going to play center. Zach Nyland was a kid that was the third guy behind Justice Perkins and Cole Sane, but I'm not seeing him on the roster, so maybe he's a guy that departed. So big question mark there at center. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. When it comes to the Grizz, I think that you certainly start with Panfilov. Where's he going to give you the best chance to anchor your line? Is it as your left tackle? Is it as your right tackle? Or is it as a guy who moves around a bunch? Liam Brown's the next guy you start with if you're the Grizz. He's just a hog molly. I thought it was a big mistake by them to play him at center because, again, I don't want my 6'6", 325-pound guy playing center. I want my 6'6", 325-pound guy playing guard. That's a prototype guard size. You can move a lot of dirt, and you can move a lot of mass out of there with that. And when Brown moved back to guard, I thought he was really good. So I think you start with those two. Lucas Freitas is a young man who was the elevated young guy, and I know that the coaching staff loves his potential. He also has the mass already as a redshirt sophomore to absolutely contribute. He's 6'6", 312 pounds. So I think he's going to fit in probably at one of those tackle spots unless he's more comfortable playing guard. I can't wait to see these guys in action during the spring game because I think we'll have a little bit more clarity there. Everett Johnson's a guy you figure to fit in the mix too. A guy that was a transfer from Cal last year. He also has immense size, 6'7", 301 pounds. And then Dylan Botner, we reported this 2 weeks ago, but he's a guy that ended up earning another year of eligibility, so he's back as a grad transfer. And he actually started for a good portion of last year at left tackle. I hear they're working him in at center too, so maybe that's a solution. Although, again, he's 6'6", 295. I don't really know if I love the 200 or the 6'6", or even more than 6'3" at the center spot. But if you got to have somebody, maybe they can figure it out. So I do think that those five, Brown, Panfilov, Freitas, Botner, and Johnson, that's a pretty good place to start. But I still think you got to have a center. It's the same thing for both these programs. Again, I know I'm biased because I was a center. But I think it's the biggest blind spot in college football recruiting. I think that the coaches think at a lot of different places, it's not just a criticism of Montana or Montana State. I think at a lot of different places, coaches think you can just move an offensive lineman to that spot and they're going to be able to figure it out. It's a ball skill. It's a totally different position. It takes a totally different skill set, rhythm. Everything about it's different. And then you factor in playing where these teams play. I know when the offense is on the field, it's not quite as loud, but it is still a way intense experience to be in front of 26,000 people and try to snap a ball. Then you factor in the shotgun part, the RPO part of it, all these different things, the line calls, who's in the box. It takes a certain mind and a certain skill. So can Botner do it? Can Brown do it? I'm not sure. But maybe there's one of these other younger guys that can rise up and do it. I've heard good things about Dylan Cohen, who's a redshirt sophomore. He's way more that center size, 6'1", 275. I've heard good things about Matt Hilden. He's 6'6", still trying to put on the weight as a redshirt freshman, but he's up to 280. I heard good things about Tate Templeton, the Missoula Sentinel product. He's a redshirt sophomore now, and he's 6'3", 298. But I won't be able to give you a full scout on this until I look down on the field during the spring game and see who's actually playing center for the Grizz and see how they can operate. So that's all to say that I do think both these teams have a chance to have pretty solid, if not really good, offensive lines. For the Grizz to have a great offensive line, they need Cannon Panfilov and Liam Brown to be first or second team all-conference caliber players. They need Freitas to be a very good, at least, Big Sky offensive lineman. They need Botner to take another step forward, too. I mean, he was fine, but he needs to be really good this year. And so does Johnson. Like, that's the thing. To be a great offensive line, you need these guys, every single one of them, to be really, really good at the Big Sky level at the very least, if not all-conference type of good. Like, you look at the Cats offensive line last year, they had 4 all-conference guys. That's what you need to be one of the best offensive lines in the country. I do think that JT Reed already has, an all-conference resume for Montana State. I think Burke Mastel has that sort of potential, and I think Titan Fleischman already has an All-American resume for the Cats. So can any of those other guys, Cedric Jefferson or Dylan Rollins, can they rise up and be those next cogs within these units? We'll see. I was going to talk defensive line because I didn't think we had enough on the offensive line to fill a whole segment, but then I remembered I'm me, and I love talking about the offensive linemen. So there you go. A look at the offensive line on both the Grizz and the Cat's eyes. And again, I just named all the guys that we know a bunch about, but you never know when somebody rises up. Like, what about Bronerick Hendrickson, a former defensive lineman who got converted over, a kid from Polson? I mean, he's 6'5", 290. He's got good size. What if he's a guy that breaks through for the Grizz? A guy like Dalton Noble, who I was really high on coming out of Jefferson County High School in Boulder. He's got that FBS interest. He was, a track champion in the throws. What if he's ready as a redshirt freshman? He's certainly got the footwork and the athleticism. Does he have the mass and the strength? I don't know. So there could be a whole bunch of guys that are maybe a little bit different or maybe a little bit of a outlier from all those guys we just analyzed. But either way, to me, I know the fans, the easiest part to watch, the easiest thing to see is the quarterbacks. It's the easiest thing to analyze. Quarterbacks and the offensive line go hand in hand, and until Montana gets to the point where they are nationally elite, top 3 or 4 in the country on the offensive line, they're going to be a step away. The Cats have been really, really good, but when can they say definitively they got the best offensive line in the country? That will be one of the key factors, one of the key boxes to check to cross over and truly be not just a national championship game qualifier, but a true national championship winner. And that is, at the end of the day, always the expectations for these football teams. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, the ESPN MT app, and the YouTube. We'll talk more about the return studs for Big Sky Conference basketball. A little bit different of a storyline around the Big Sky Conference and men's hoops right now, with several of the best players in the league deciding to come back to their respective teams instead of chasing money in the portal. That's next. Don't change that dial. Keep it right here. It's Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio.
Montana is built on strong...
At Shields, we're anglers, endlessly seeking and refining techniques. We're hunters and storytellers, because we've been out there